Biéke, and welcome to another Let's Talk Taino. I'm your host, Priscilla Colon, co-founder and creative here at Casa Areyto, where our mission is to promote the Taino language and culture. So if you've joined us before, you've gone through the alphabet, you know some basic greetings with Thai, like Taigwe and Taikaraya. And now we're going to continue with word parts. Today, the word part we're going to be focusing on is que. Now, que means land, soil, or earth. And you're going to find it in the names of a lot of places. And these places that we'll be touching on today include Kiskeya. And Kiskeya is the island where Haiti and the Dominican Republic currently are. Another name with que includes Borikén. That is the original name for Puerto Rico. Another is Biéke, currently known as the island of Vieques. And the last one is Yunque. And Uk is currently known as El Yunque, which is the national forest in Puerto Rico. Now, before I launch into the first word, Kiskeya, I want to clarify that the island where Haiti and the Dominican Republic currently are was known by two names. One of them was Haiti, or sometimes pronounced Haiti, and that meant roughness or rough terrain because it has a lot of mountains. That is the name that the Taino called it around 1400s, 1500s. That was the name then. However, it first had a different name, and that is the one that we're going to be talking about today. So let's take a look at the word Kiskeya. You'll notice that the que is right in the middle of the word. So we know that that means land or soil or earth. Kiskeya actually means mother of all lands. However, Kiskeya is actually a Mayan word. Wait, how does that happen? So if you joined us during our first video, we looked at this map that showed where the Taínos lived. But these arrows aren't just showing where they lived, they're showing where the Taínos also came from. These arrows are also pointing out trade routes. The Taínos were sailors and they traded all over this area. So they were constantly in contact with people from the southern part of the US all the way through South America. So Taínos were really the first American melting pot. They came from South America, places like Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, places in Central America and North America as well. So back to the meaning of Kiskeya. Kiskeya is made up of three parts in Mayan, one of which is very similar to Taino. So Kik means radiant sun. Kek means fertile soil. You see the similarity with Ke. And Ya means abundant water. Put them all together and the meaning is mother of all lands. Where else would you find radiant sun, fertile soil, and abundant water, the land that has everything? So now let's go to our second place name with que, and that is Borikén. Borikén is the land of my ancestors, so currently we know it as Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico. So Borikén is made up of three parts. Bo, which means great, big, or round. Ri, which means brave or valiant. And of course, you know the que, which means land. And the N at the very end is sometimes used as a pluralizer. Let's say like adding an S at the end of a word to make it plural in English. So put those things all together and you get land of the great and valiant lords. I have to stress that the word lords was the original translation in Spanish, señores, but you need to understand that the Spanish had a very particular meaning for the word lord, you know, as in lords and ladies, people who own lands. So you have to be careful about translating exactly with that perspective. So in modern days, I would say Borikén probably is closer to land of brave people, great people, that sort of thing. But some people have actually doubted that the original name of the island was Borikén. They think that it was misheard by the Spanish, that it was probably Borikén. Now, where does this come from? I see the que, that means land, Well, Borikén actually means crab in Taino. So are they saying that this was the land of crabs? I really hope not. So by doing a little bit more research, I found out that the Kalinago or Carib people, who were our neighbors in the Lesser Antilles, they used to call the island Borikén. Based on that, we think that the original Borikén is probably the name of the island. We dodged a bullet there. Now let's take a look at our next place name, which is Biéke. It is currently known as Vieques Island, which is next to the northern eastern part of Puerto Rico. So let's take a look at the name. It is made up of a few parts. So que, you recognized, it means land, but bi is actually a word part that means small. So put this together and it literally means small land. So if you've seen the map of Vieques Island right next to Puerto Rico, you know that it looks like a tiny little piece of land. So logically it makes sense. It means Biéke, small land. So the last place we'll talk about today with the word part que is Yunque. Yunque is probably the original name of El Yunque, which is the national forest in Puerto Rico. Now, if you joined us for the video on the Taino alphabet, you know that U means white. And since que means land, put them together, you get white land. Now, why is that? Well, if you've ever seen El Yunque or Yunque from afar, you know that there's a big mountain. And when the fog comes down, the clouds literally start covering up the mountain and it looks white. So kind of logically makes sense that the Taino would call this white land. So now let's review everything you've learned just by looking at the names of 4 different places with the word part que. So we've learned que, which means land, Kiskeya, which means mother of all lands. We've also learned that bo means great, great lord, big, round. Ri means brave or valiant. So in Borikén, that means land of the great and valiant lords. You also learned Borikén, which means crab. You learned that the word part bi means small, and that biéke means small land. You also learned that yu means white, and yuke means white land. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson and that you learned something about some of the places where Taínos lived. So in our next video, we're going to be continuing with the word part que, specifically in additional nouns, such as the words for town and other things like that. I hope you had a lot of fun with this. I have a blast kind of de-weeding these words and figuring out their original meanings, learning a little bit about the culture and the way people thought along the way. So join me next time, and until then, Taikaraya Guaitiao.